Hi, I'm C.C. Péan, and this is Reclaiming Your Health. Hello and welcome to Reclaiming Your Health. This is C.C. Péan. So happy to be here with you this evening. And guess what? We're doing something we haven't done before. We are going to repeat the conversation that we had the week prior. We're saying it was so nice, we're doing it twice. And we're also going to be peppering the presentation with images of the products, the appliances that I mentioned last week. We got a little turned around and we didn't get that ready in time. So we wanted to be sure that we provided you all not only with the names and sometimes a description and an example of how you could use it, but an image as well. Because I know with me, if I see it, I remember it. All the words and stuff can get lost on me. So tonight we are repeating tips and tricks. These are things that as someone who has transitioned from plant-based to plant-based eating, for someone who has advised people on how to do it, these are some of the key things that I keep in my kitchen, in my cabinet, in my pantry, in my knife drawer. These are things that I literally keep at all times, and I am able to, in an hour or under, prepare an entire meal. Now, you're going to be getting your perishables and things like that, but what I'm talking about are appliances and tools, and I'm talking about non-perishable items that I would suggest you keep at all times. And I've even got some tricks on how to make them last longer than usual. Okay, so we're going to get started with a cheesecloth. A cheesecloth is important because a cheesecloth, if you're doing some kind of soup or something like that, I cook with a lot of herbs, and my husband's biggest pet peeve, he says, when I leave branches in the food, he's talking about the herbs, right? Because I'll just throw the whole, thyme sprig in there and the whole rosemary sprig. And I don't mind it, and I pick it out. Sometimes I don't. But if you're somebody who wants to expand, there you go, there's the cheesecloth. If you're somebody who wants to infuse flavor into your broths and your beans and your grains and things like that, and you don't want to have to worry about picking it out afterwards, or the prep of pulling them off the, off the little leaves or twigs or whatever, and then chopping them up, you can place that entire herb in a piece of cheesecloth. You secure that bad boy with a little bit of food grade twine, and you can drop it in the pot. It is great. In a pinch, it can serve for nut milk and things like that. But I think that I keep cheesecloth at all times because it's something that comes in very, very handy. If you don't have a strainer and you have cheesecloth, you can strain some things. Okay, nut milk bags is the number 2. I just mentioned that you can use cheesecloth for it, but so many of us are getting away from buying, pre-made things. If you think about it, it's much cheaper. It's not difficult, and it's healthier to make your own nut milks. One of the things that I always tell you is if you make it yourself, you know exactly what's going into it. So that's why it's great to have nut milk bags, because you can literally overnight soak some nuts in some spring water, and you blend that the next day. You blend it. You could add a little bit of vanilla essence if you want to, things like that. And then you're going to pour it through this nut bag, and you're going to get some beautiful, fresh, delicious milk. Now, it may not last for a week or 2 weeks, and that's okay. Make it every couple of days and replenish your container, okay? So that's nut milk bags are great for that. Strainers are great to have at all sizes. If you're using it for pasta, sometimes I will make a loose leaf tea and I want a little tiny strainer to be able to pour it through. There's so many uses for strainers. It can also be something that helps you when there's the tea strainer. I have some of those as well. If you are trying to sieve your flour and things like that. You can put that in a strainer whenever you're baking. So there's so many uses for that. There you go. The next thing is a NutriBullet. I love NutriBullets because they have so much power, but then they're portable. So if you're on the road, if you've decided I'm taking on this healthy lifestyle, I'm not going to go buy this ready-made junk. I'm going to go to the store the night before, or I'm going to buy some bananas and things like that I can have out overnight. And I'm going to buy a little thing of coconut water or, nut milk. And I'm going to blend up my smoothie right here in this hotel room while I'm traveling. It makes living healthy so easy. I love the NutriBullet. It stands up to a lot of heat. So if I'm ever doing a small container of some kind of sauce or cashew cheese and I have had hot water in there, no problem. It zips it right away. It literally is the portable equivalent of my Vitamix. I cannot recommend a NutriBullet enough. And you can always get them on sale, places like Costco or Sam's Club and things like that. Okay, the Vitamix. I just spoke on a Vitamix. Love my Vitamix. I have had my recent Vitamix for probably 8 years, and I have not had any issues with it. I actually buy the commercial Vitamix because I just feel like it's more heavy duty. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but I feel like it's more heavy duty, and it's actually slightly cheaper. So, a Vitamix is great. I mean, you can make soups, you can make sauces. It just makes everything so much better. It blends things beautifully. You can't get a better blend than a Vitamix. NutriBullet comes second, but Vitamix is number one. That's a great, great, great investment in a plant-based lifestyle because you will be making nut butter. You will be making cashew butter. You'll be doing salty and savory butters. You'll be creating all kinds of sauces, and you're going to try to make your own milk and things like that. So a Vitamix, if there is one appliance that I'm going to tell you to get, it is the Vitamix, and get the commercial kind. All right, cast iron skillet. Cast iron skillets are great. I think everybody's grandmother had one of them. They last forever. They cook evenly. But one thing I want to note is if you happen to have an iron overload, do not use cast iron because it literally leaches iron into your food. And iron is great because it promotes oxygen flow in your body. But if you have an iron overload, and somebody may not have even told you of this, avoid a cast iron pot. But everybody else, it's a great thing to have. It can start out on the stovetop. You can put it in the oven. It's naturally nonstick. It's a great thing to have. Okay, stainless steel. Stainless steel is really, really good because there's virtually no toxins. If you season it correctly, it can be nonstick. It's virtually indestructible. And it's, if you're somebody who sometimes likes to serve things in pots on the table and things like that, they tend to be very attractive if they've been kept up well. Cuisinart always has great sales on them. I've bought an entire set off of Amazon for a great price. Great, great, great thing to have. Okay, and they, like I said, indestructible, last forever. I think it's called the Barmaid's something. There is a scouring powder that's called Barmaid something. I can't remember the name, but it's great for cleaning stainless steel. If you use it on there, it's going to look brand new. Okay, let's keep moving. Ceramic pots like Le Creuset. I mentioned last week that you can always get Le Creuset on sale at Home Goods. They'll be retired colors, but they cook beautifully. Doesn't matter. So what? You don't have a matching set. These are great pots to have. And because they are ceramic, they are pre-seasoned and ready to go. So they're nonstick to begin with. IKEA actually has a great version of these pots for maybe a third of the price. So if you're on a budget, hit Home Goods, hit IKEA. All right, cookie sheets. Cookie sheets are great. Oh, the ceramic pot. I don't know if I sent that in case somebody wants to see it. I think I sent you, it's a red pot. It's a red. So nope, keep going back. Let's see. I think it was a red pot I sent, but most of you are familiar with it. It's like the Dutch oven. They're these very heavy pots. They always come in these beautiful bright colors. That's Le Creuset. So don't worry about it. If you find it and it pops up there, I'll let them know. But I think most people know what I'm talking about with that. So cookie sheets and cooling racks. Cookie sheets, buy quality cookie sheets, because if you've ever put a cookie sheet in an oven at a high temperature and you see it like it's like dancing, like one side is up and one side is down, that's because that pan is not constructed to handle that level of heat. Again, commercial. I like buying things commercial, things that are made for the commercial kitchen, because they're virtually indestructible. They're strong. They're made for wear and tear. They may not be the prettiest things, but they're solid. And so I would suggest that you get one of those. As a new vegan, as a new plant-based person, you're going to be doing a whole lot of oven roasting. To eat on its own, and then you're going to be oven roasting, and you're going to be putting it into sauces and soups and things like that. So you want to have a good cookie sheet and a great cooling rack, because for those times when you're indulgent and you want it to fry something up, when you want it to stay crispy as you finish cooking, you need that rack, because you can place that fried item on there and it's not going to be in its own oil. It's not going to get soggy. It's going to stay nice and crisp. So that's why you want that, the cooling rack. And also it helps cool things down. So if it's just holding until you place on a plate, or if it's like, you've baked some cookies and they need to come to room temperature, there you go. It has a dual purpose. So it's great for that. Glass containers with lids. This is really important, because a lot of us have gotten a little too comfortable with plastic, and we do way too many things in plastic without understanding the health effects, the negative health effects plastic can have. So it's great to keep these glass containers. These glass containers, once you take off the lids, you can put them in the oven. You can put them in the microwave. I don't suggest it, but you can put them in the oven and things like that, and there's no chemicals leaching off of that glass. When you use plastic, especially when you put something hot in plastic, it is immediately leaching. It is immediately out, the plastic toxins and all those things are going into your body. The only time I ever use plastic to store is if it's something that doesn't have any heat in it at all, or if I've completely cooled it down before I transfer it into, this is exactly what I use. I buy these at different sizes, but I cool things down completely before I put them in there, because I don't want anything leaching into my plastic. Now, some of you are probably surprised to hear that, because you've probably gone to an Asian market, or you've purchased something takeout and there's some hot liquid that's in a plastic container. So everybody doesn't follow that rule. And I know we've come a long way with plastic, but I like to be on the safe side. So that's what I would suggest. Those plastic containers in 8 ounces, 16 ounces, 32 ounces, I get those at restaurant supply stores or on Amazon.com. They're great to have as a transitioning vegan, because if you want to cook, say 3 cups of beans, and obviously you're not going to eat all, 3 cups cooked, so it's probably 6 cups of beans. You can take those little containers once your food is cooled down, and you can say, okay, this is enough for 1 meal. And you put your 8 ounce, you write on it 8 ounces of beans, whatever type of beans, you put it in your freezer. Okay? So that's a great way too to assist you in your prep. I was speaking with somebody earlier who was talking about transitioning to the vegan. That's the marker I use right there. And even if you use a Sharpie, you can use soap to get that off, dishwashing soap to get that off. So that's how I label. But one of the things, I was speaking with somebody earlier today about the challenges of transitioning to plant-based, and she was saying all the prep. And this is, I was telling her, it's once you get the prep down, you're good. So if you say, you know what, this week we're going to have quinoa fried rice on Thursday, but we're going to have, quinoa porridge some other day. So I'm going to go ahead and make 4 cups of quinoa. Well, I know on Thursday I'm going to need 3 cups, for my quinoa. So I put that in like a 24-ounce plastic container. I write fried rice Thursday. It's in the freezer. Thursday morning before I go out to work, I put it in the refrigerator so it can thaw out, but some of the work was done. Now it's just the veggies and things because I've already got my quinoa cooked. So it's great for storage. It's great for prep. These are great things to have in your pantry. Okay, I'm running out of time. I got to get moving, talking too much. Air fryers are one of the greatest inventions that the inventors have brought us in the past few years. I love air fryers. I'm somebody who loves crispy things. So if I want to be a little indulgent and I want to have French fries, but I don't want to deep fry it in fat, I can put it in my air fryer and voila, it's wonderful. There's so many different things. You're seeing Brussels sprouts. It's great to do Brussels sprouts in there. It gets it crispy. It cuts down the cooking time. Great, great, great investment for you to have. You will get your money's worth with an air fryer. And maybe you want to start out with one a little cheaper just to see if you like it. You will. Then you kick it up a notch and you get something like what's pictured. Ninja has them now. Cuisinart has them. Great, great, great item to have in your repertoire. Okay, of course, measuring cups, measuring spoons. I speak of the mandolin, a mandolin with a glove. Why a mandolin? Because you'll get beautiful, consistent slices. Are measuring cups and measuring spoons. The mandolin should be next. You get beautiful, even slices. Everything's going to cook evenly, and it looks beautiful when it's finished. Okay. So mandolins are great. Plus they cut down your prep time. You can get through an onion in maybe 10, 15 seconds. Okay. It is a great thing to have, but please, 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 if you do this, get a glove. Get a glove. I am a trained chef and I will not go near a mandolin unless I have a glove on. I've seen tips of people's fingers taken off and everything. So you don't want that. A great cutting knife is good to have. It doesn't have to be super expensive. Again, I go to Amazon. Sometimes before I start my new gig, I'll go on Amazon and I'll buy like a $30, $40 knife, something like that. Sometimes they have a sheath that will cover the top. Sometimes I will store it in that box just like that. You don't have to. You just need 3 good knives, 2 or 3 good knives. I don't think you need to have a whole bunch of knives. The set is beautiful in your kitchen, but if you go out and you spend $30 to $40 on a knife and you make sure you keep it somewhere safe, away from little hands, and you work slowly with it, don't try to do too much. That's a great item to have in your kitchen along with a paring knife because, we're working with, we're working a lot of fruit. We're doing a lot of handwork. So a paring knife is good because if you want to get through your potatoes and you don't have a peeler, a paring knife. There you go. A mango. You want to cut the tops off of your strawberries without, wasting the actual meat of the strawberry. It's good to have that. So those are 2 knives that you want to have in your repertoire. Okay. So we finished those things. I'm going to get in a little bit into some of the non-perishable items that I suggest you keep. Something that I've noticed, and I'm sure a lot of you have noticed, is that when you go into a grocery store now, rarely are the shelves full. Things are just not available like they have been. So I suggest that you start stocking up on non-perishables. And these are the particular non-perishables I suggest you keep. They're nutrient dense, they're carbohydrate rich, they're non-perishable, they're relatively inexpensive, and they're great additions to your diet. I buy these in bulk at Sprouts. There's also great prices on these at Costco and at Sam's. But I love to buy quinoa because, like I said earlier, quinoa is great in porridge. Quinoa is great on its own right there. It's great as fried rice. It's a great addition to add to like if you're serving up some soup, you want to drop a half a cup or a quarter cup of cooked quinoa in there. It's great for porridge. It's great to go. Sometimes I use it in place of like grains and flour. I make burgers and stuff with them. So quinoa is great to have. Farro is great to have. It's a nice dense. Hemp seed. We jumped ahead a little bit. Farro is great to have. Brown rice, rolled oats. These are great things to have. And I always suggest that there's the farro. I love farro because it reminds me of barley. It's a ancient grain. It's a great addition to have to your diet. And like I said, it reminds me, it's really hearty. It's really hearty. The best way to store these, if we're talking about buying non-perishables, we're talking about things are not as readily available, we want to figure out how to store these. So what I suggest you do is that you store these in a Ziploc in your freezer. These grains will last from up to 2 years. Flour lasts about 2 years. Nuts last for about 6 months. So I would suggest that you get these things. You know, you've got some already in your pantry that you're going to be using over the next few weeks or few months, and then you've got this extra that is already in the bottom of your freezer. It's, you know, it's portioned out. It's ready to go. Hemp, chia, and flax seeds are great to have. Chia and flax seeds are mucilaginous. They're great if you have any kind of blood issue, like hypertension and things like that, or diabetes. Chia seed and flaxseed are a great addition to your diet because they keep your insulin levels from spiking and they keep you satiated. So that's why it's great to have that in your diet. Hemp these are all great things. I love these. I love these on yogurt. I love them on fruit. I love them on top of my smoothie. They're great to have. And these can be stored as well in your freezer for up to 6 months. Okay, these are the kinds of things, if you're already somebody who does a smoothie and you don't add this, just add these. They're great, antioxidant rich, they're nutrient dense, they're protein rich, aminos, all those types of things. They're great to have in your freezer. Cashews, walnuts, and pecans. Unless you have a nut allergy, these are great nuts to keep. Cashews are great. Cashew cream, cashew cheese is delicious. You can make a simple pasta with some cashew cheese. If you want to make it a little peppery, you can throw pepper in there or whatever. But cashews are great. Cashew milk is so rich and delicious. So you want to keep cashews, you want to keep walnuts, and you want to keep pecans. Pecan meal in particular is great for meatballs and burgers and things like that. So those I like to store in the freezer as well, so they don't go rancid, because there is a fat content, there's an oil content, so they'll go rancid. So I keep those in my freezer for about 6 months. How are we doing for time? I have a few more things, if you'll bear with me. Red lentils. Lentils are great to have. Why? Because they're protein rich. You can throw lentils on a salad. You can make lentils into a soup. You can even use lentil to make a bread. I'm going to be coming up with that, sharing that recipe with you all in the next few weeks. So lentils are great to have, and they cook so easily, and they take on the flavor. So if you're trying to do something Indian, you can chop up some fresh ginger and some fresh garlic. These red lentils go in there. You throw in a little bit of coconut milk, some cumin. Oh my goodness, delicious dish in no time at all. Lentils, red and green lentils are great to keep. Where? Keep some for quick use in your pantry, but store even more in your freezer. Okay, and those stay for about, I think I read about a year, 12 to 18 months. 10 bean soup mix is great. Now everybody's got an Instapot. So 10 bean soup is something that I've always loved, but it just took so long, and I'd smell it cooking all day. So by the time it was ready to eat, I didn't want it because I was tired of it. Well, with Instapots now, you can make a delicious 10 bean soup in no time. Okay. So That's a great thing to keep as well. Nutritional yeast is great because it can be used in so many different ways. As you're seeing here, it's got good protein, it's got fiber, it's low in carbs, low in calories. It's a great protein source, and it provides B12, which is something that vegans and plant-based eaters often lack. So that's why it's good to have that in there. Vegetable broth, I was just talking about that 10 bean soup. Keep that vegetable broth. That's a great way to add delicious flavor, in addition to some herbs that I'm going to talk about later. But literally, you can come in with your Instapot, you rinse off those the beans, and you put them in an Instapot. You pour that vegetable broth in there. You throw in some fresh herbs, run that bad boy. By the time you've settled and gotten the table set or whatever, that soup is ready to go. Okay, and these are great because they're non-perishable and they can stay on the shelf for a very, very, very long time. Coconut oil is great to keep. Avocado oil is great. It's great, 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 great for cooking. You can cook it at very high heat, and it's a heart-healthy oil, no junk. So avocado oil is great to use, to keep in the home. And you can get great prices on those at places like Costco and Sam's. I always go there for my avocado oil. All of my oils, really. I even get a really great spray avocado oil from Costco. So go to your big box stores to buy things like that. You don't want to buy that at your Publix or Kroger's. You're not going to have the best price. Okay, coconut milk, something to add instant lusciousness to your food, and it's canned. That's why I'm suggesting it as opposed to something that would need to be refrigerated. But this can in particular, this brand in particular, they are one of the few companies making coconut milk that actually still use whole coconut in the milk, in that can. You will find if you go and you pick up a can of coconut milk, it's going to say coconut extract, it's going to say guar gum, and it's going to say some other thing. It is not going to say coconut milk. It's not going to say coconut. It'll say coconut extract. They're selling things on the market that are not actually what they say they are. So Goya is a great product. I love to keep it in my cabinet, in my pantry. Evaporated coconut milk by Nature's Charm. I don't have a picture of that, unfortunately, but evaporated coconut milk by Nature's Charm is something else I keep, because if I'm feeling decadent and I want to make some pasta, I've got my evaporated coconut milk that doesn't taste like coconut at all. The other one does, but the evaporated coconut milk is very luscious, and to me, it doesn't have a coconut flavor, but it's something that you can use very quickly in dishes to add that, that creaminess, that bisque type feel. So that's a good thing to keep. Tamari is also good to keep. Tamari, a low sodium tamari. Tamari I like to keep because it is gluten free. Okay, so it's like soy sauce without the gluten, just in case you didn't even know that soy sauce has gluten in it. It does, because there's wheat that goes into the making of soy sauce. Also, if you have a gluten intolerance, you can use liquid aminos. Rice vinegar is something that I like to keep. Rice vinegar is something that I like to keep to use periodically if I'm pickling something or something like that. I really don't use much of it, but I do like rice vinegar because not only does it give me the acid, it has great flavor to it. So the perishables that I always keep in my refrigerator are, I always keep at least 2 bricks of extra firm tofu. Always, because it's great to use in the morning for a scramble. It is great to use if I want to make like some tofu nuggets for dinner, or, some kind of patty, a fried patty or something like that for lunch. There's so many different uses for the tofu. I also keep silken tofu around. Silken tofu comes in great if, say, for example, you don't want to use evaporated coconut milk or coconut milk. Silken tofu, it has so many delicious uses. I use it for my custards. I use it for sauces, for the base of a cheese sauce. There's so many different uses for it. It's great in a smoothie as well. If you're not wanting to use nut milk, that makes a delicious, super rich and thick smoothie. Those are things, the perishable things that I always keep in my refrigerator. I always keep thyme. I was speaking about herbs earlier. Remember I was talking about the 10 bean soup, and then you've got your broth. Here come the herbs. So I keep thyme. I keep rosemary. And many of you, I know so many people that are growing their own herbs now. I have a girlfriend who has this cute pot. It's like a terracotta pot, like this big. And it's on her counter, and she has all these herbs. Like she has sage, and she has her thyme and rosemary. Rosemary grows everywhere. But it's beautiful because it just sits on her counter, and like literally she's able to snip fresh herbs. Thyme, rosemary, sage. It's always great to have poultry seasoning. That's great in stews and soups. Anything that you're wanting to give it kind of a meatiness, a heartiness to it, poultry seasoning. The other thing I keep are sweet potatoes. I love sweet potatoes. They are beta carotene rich, and they're just so good for you. And there's so many different uses for them. You can, throw them in a pot with some broth and some veggies, and you've got a nice soup. You can throw in a little bit of evaporated coconut milk, and you've got a really rich soup. You can make fries from that. You can do oven roasted sweet potatoes. There's so many incredible uses for it, and they're so heart healthy. I always keep some of those around. Tomato paste. I keep. Sometimes it just adds such a beautiful round flavor to food. You like wondering what's missing sometimes. Again, bean soup obviously is the star for tonight, because you've made some bean soup, you've used the broth, you've used your herbs, but something's still not quite right. Sometimes if you just add some tomato to it and some as a sauce, as a paste, it just does something to the dish. So I like to keep that. Sun-dried tomatoes are great as well, because they even more so have this really rich, just delicious. There's a term that is very big now, umami. It almost has an umami quality to it. And so I love to use sun-dried tomatoes. If I've used fresh tomatoes, I'll still use sun-dried because it gives a completely different experience. The last three things are really my holy trinity, and that is garlic, onion, and celery. Those things I keep around because they just give things that homemade, I cooked this with love type of flavor. So we want to keep those around as well. The last thing I wanted to mention, as a plant-based person, as a vegan, as a vegetarian, mushrooms are referred to as the vegetarian's meat. Grow your own mushrooms on your counter. Go to Amazon.com. They have growing kits for shiitake, oyster, lion's mane, and chicken of the woods. You can grow these in a couple of years ago, I did this on my counter, and it was actually freakish. In like about 72 hours, my mushrooms went from little tiny buds to like huge oyster mushrooms. It was crazy. So, and that was on my counter with a spray bottle. I would encourage you to try different types of mushrooms. They have different textures, different flavors. People say they don't like mushrooms. Oftentimes you've had them, it's like a texture thing. So there's so many different types to try. This is a great way to try it. In terms of a perishables thing, that is something that I would suggest you get and you try it out. So most of these things I've spoken about, you can get them at Sprouts. If not at Sprouts, check out Amazon or some other, store site. There you go. That's it. Back to the roots, organic mint. And it's $12.99. And I can promise you the amount of mushrooms you can harvest, it will be well worth your money, because mushrooms can be incredibly expensive, especially when you get to these specialty type of mushrooms. So those are my tips and tricks for transitioning into a plant-based lifestyle, a vegan lifestyle. I hope that this information was useful to you. And thank you for joining us. We ran a little late today, but we got it all in. So we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.